Hey everybody, it's Cyborg. Thanks for tuning into my Mortal Kombat 1 review. I'm going to be covering the game's big successes, the failures, and the stuff that's kind of falls in between the mixed bag stuff, the things that could use some improvements. I've played the game for over 80 hours now, so I feel very confident that I've basically touched all aspects of the game. I've completed just about all there is to complete, unlocked essentially everything. So I feel very confident in talking about it all. So we're going to be breaking down all of that in today's video. And it's going to be more of like a casual, I'm just talking to you. Think of like how our podcasts are, our NetherKast episodes. We're just going to be having a discussion, you and I, and I'm going to be sharing my thoughts and feelings as a longtime Mortal Kombat fan who's played every single entry extensively and has been a part of the online Mortal Kombat community since the lead up to Deadly Alliance. So I've done this whole thing, so many times. So this is going to be coming from a hardcore Mortal Kombat, lifelong fan perspective on Mortal Kombat 1. That being said, before we get into everything, I would greatly appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Because if you're a Mortal Kombat fan and you don't know who we are, we've been around for 9 years now, covering all things Mortal Kombat with Mortal Kombat X, Mortal Kombat 11. We covered Injustice 2 as well, and we've covered all things in relation to Mortal Kombat 1, and we'll continue to do so into the future. So I'd greatly appreciate it if you would stick around, subscribe. You're not going to want to, or you will not regret it. And anyways, let's get to the review. WB Games did send me this copy of Mortal Kombat 1 to review and play, and I've been having a blast with it. So thank you to WB Games for sending me that copy. I did go out to Evo, check it out there, played the stress test, played the beta. So like I said, we've been covering all things Mortal Kombat 1. I wouldn't miss it for anything. So yeah, it's been a tremendous blast. So thank you for that, as well as if you're interested, I do have a Twitter as well as our Discord where you can talk to hundreds of Mortal Kombat fans on the daily, essentially 24/7. So check both of those out in the description, at NetherKast on Twitter as well. With all the business stuff aside, let's talk about the game. It seems like overall the community is very happy with this game, but it is not without faults. What I think it does really well far outweighs what it doesn't do well, but there are a few sour points that I think need to be fixed as soon as possible. And those are the only things that I would mark down as like a failure. As I mentioned before, the game, I'm going to categorize these as like, what did the game knock out of the park? What are like the mixed bag things, the kind of like, it's okay, but it could use some improvement. And then what are like the failures, the things that really, are not good and they need to be addressed as fast as possible because they're affecting a lot of people in a very negative way. That being said, excuse my cough. Still having some bad lung issues following COVID back at Evo several weeks ago. It's already been. But yeah, so I'll try and keep that to a minimum, but it's been tough. The failures. So I'm a very positive-minded. I like to focus on the things I like rather than the dislikes. So I would like to talk about the failures first because those are very pressing issues and sour points to certain people of the community or all players. So I think let's just get those out of the way first, and then we'll talk about everything the game is doing either okay or great. So failures. The PC port of the game is rough, like very rough. It's having stuttering issues, crashing issues, frame rate issues. Basically, you name it, it's struggling. Load times, I've heard. So yeah, the PC port is not in a good place right now, which is a shame because I'm a PC player myself. My copy that I got is not on PC. I actually bought a PS5 just so I could play this game on PS5 because of another issue that the game has that we're going to get to. But yeah, the PC port needs to be fixed. Like, that needs to be a high priority for NRS or QLock, whoever is, handling the PC ports. They need to figure it out, and that sucks when people are struggling to actually just be able to enjoy the game because it's fighting against them the whole time. So the PC port is rough. So my experience is not going to be based on the PC port. As somebody that doesn't own that copy of the game, I actually refunded my copy. I was originally had it pre-ordered for Steam, that I got it refunded because just another issue. So that being said, that's honestly inexcusable at this point in time. PC players and the fan base and the community on PC, I feel like, has been growing tremendously over the years, and the PC port should play just as good as the console versions, and people on PC shouldn't have to be worried about how is the PC version of this game going to play. And unfortunately, that was a real concern for a lot of people. If you go back to our NetherKast episodes over the months leading up to Mortal Kombat 1, when it came to like, what do we hope most, or what are our biggest wishes for Mortal Kombat 1, several times I or somebody else brought up, the PC port needs to be good. That was before I even bought a PS5. I don't even want to own a PS5. I just wish I could have just bought the PC port and called it good and being able to play with everybody and everything and had a, wonderful time, save myself the money. But yeah, so the PC port needs to absolutely be addressed and fixed as soon as possible. Next up on the failures is no crossplay, and that was the big reason why before the PC port, because obviously I had to have the PS5 version just to even play the beta and the stress test, because those weren't on the PC version, there wasn't a PC ability to play the beta or the stress test, which is unfortunate. So yeah, already I was like, oh, I gotta invest in a PS5 if I'm gonna be able to play Mortal Kombat 1, was my thought. But that was before we truly knew if there was gonna be crossplay or not. We kind of had an idea, that maybe there wouldn't be at launch, because something they had up in their FAQ when the game was first announced, but then it was quickly taken down, so people weren't sure whether it was gonna be there or not. If they were trying to get it done in time, they kind of just stayed silent on that, which is unfortunate, because I think you should be transparent with that kind of big, feature. Now, they did come out and say, right around launch, leading up to launch, within the last week or whatever it was, that there was going to be no crossplay at launch, but they are working on it, which is great. They didn't give a timetable on when it would be implemented. With Mortal Kombat 11, it eventually got added between consoles, I believe, but PC was left out of that, so we don't know if PC is going to be included in this. I sure hope so, because I just ultimately, I think crossplay and cross-save needs to be there. And if the PC port gets fixed, then I would easily just buy a copy on PC and just play it on my computer and be able to have my, all my saves are in PS5. That would be ideal. So crossplay, I hope, is here by the end of the year, here in the next month or two. I really hope it's sooner rather than an aftermath style update, a year out from now. That would be very unfortunate. And it is already unfortunate, because we have people in our community that are either on Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, and we cannot play together unless people purchase multiple copies of the game, or even if they have the consoles that are, required to even do that to begin with, is another story. So yeah, I really hope to see crossplay. I just want to see one community being able to play together, and a lot of games are starting to have crossplay, at launch, or they implement it later. But I think of games like Rocket League or Fortnite or Call of Duty, etc. I think Street Fighter and Tekken, maybe not so much those. But I think my point is, I think more games are having it these days because they know the value and the importance that it is to keep communities and player bases as high as possible, rather than segmenting them out. So yes, crossplay needs to be added sooner rather than later. Let's get everybody able to play together. Does nobody good to segment out the player bases like that. And then the last in the failure category is just the amount of bugs, noticeable bugs in the game. Things like brutalities some of the brutalities are not working when they should. You unlock it, but then you can't use that brutality until you unlock the next one. So it's something, I don't know if they got switched or something, wires got crossed and they didn't get fixed in time. But yeah, it's unfortunate because it's frustrating as a player, because you don't really know why it's not working. You go to do the input and it doesn't work. You load up another match, you get through it to the end, you time everything out just perfectly, you press the right buttons, doesn't work. So that stuff's very frustrating. But then there's things like game crashing. That's happened to me once or twice. You can see in my story playthrough, I think it was the last part. It was near the last part of the game when, well, I won't spoil it, but the last part of the game, during the final chapter, my game just flat out crashed and went back to the menu, like the PlayStation menu. I was like, well, that's awkward to do that during my recording, and I left it in. But that's happened to several people, crashing or black screening or whatever. It's even worse if you're playing like online in like Combat League or something like that, and it just ruins your sets, your rank, whatever. So that's unfortunate. And then there's just other little things just not working, just like little maybe input glitches that people have noticed with the button inputs, or just things not feeling perfectly right. So it's just more bugs than usual. There are some funny ones in there, like I put up a video of Cyrax's torso in the cutscene when you defeat the boss in Arcade Ladder. Cyrax, the Kameo's torso, is just floating there doing all the punching motions, but his head and his other limbs are missing, which is funny. Those are the kind of bugs that are kind of funny and don't really harm anything, grand scheme, but like crashing and brutalities, not unlocking when they should, that kind of stuff is no bueno. So, or input bugs, or somebody mentioned like a potential player one advantage in this game again, like an MK9. So yeah, that's no good. So those are my 3 main failures of the game itself. Now, if I were to add one additional one, it would be, and this isn't really affecting the actual quality of the game, so it's not something I would like dock points off on a review or anything, but I do think it's worth mentioning just because I think it's something people should speak up on more often than they do, because it's kind of a sour note for the community. But the whole approach of an early release, if you buy a higher edition of the game, things like, well, if you get the standard edition, you can play it on September 19th. But if you get the premium edition, so if you're willing to pay $40 more, or $150 more, or whatever it was for the collector's edition, if you're willing to shell out the extra $40 for the Combat Pack premium edition thing, or the an additional $180 or whatever, then you get to play it 5 days early. You get to play the game 5 days earlier than everybody else. For something like a single player game is one thing, but a fighting game, that is a huge advantage for anybody that's like it's not even the fact that it's an advantage to get those initial 5 days, which is just kind of unfortunate. But the real unfortunate part is when you have people in your community like we do in our Discord, where we're all looking that first night of being able to play sets together and lab and just grind, do King of the Hills, have fun together. Man, it's such a bummer when not everybody can do that, because not everybody was interested enough to buy the special editions of the game. You shouldn't feel that much pressure and FOMO to, like, that extra pressure and FOMO to push you to buy those things. Like, let the content for the special editions speak for themselves. If you want the Combat Pack, get the Combat Pack. If you want the Statue Collector's Edition, get that. That's cool. Those things are great. They already have a good amount of content and enough incentives to buy them if you're interested in that sort of thing. But the 5-day early access thing, I don't like that. I don't think that's right. It definitely I feel like that's just not a road we should be going down in the gaming community. So yeah, I feel like I just needed to mention that. I hope we move away from that. I don't want to see that any further in future releases. I just don't think that's good. That's not good for anybody, honestly. If you want extra incentives put into your special editions to get those pre-orders and to get the money, I understand it from a business standpoint, but I think you should take other methods to do that. Put an extra thing in there, whatever. Pack in more, the in-game money to make it more worth it, stuff like that. Anyways, moving on. So those are the things that I would just say are outright things I would like to see just fixed. Like, they need to be fixed. let's move on to the big successes, and then we'll finish up with the mixed bag stuff. So for the big successes, okay, there's a lot of these. Like I said, overall, the game, I think, is a huge success, and I think it's phenomenal. Outside of those failures that are currently there that can be fixed, you know, those don't have to be be-all, end-alls where, you know, those are things that could just be taken off the record as time goes on, you know, in the coming weeks or months. You know, those are things that could be essentially non-factors. Hopefully that is the case sooner rather than later. But the big successes are the game itself, like the actual content in the game are where you're going to find a lot of these big successes. And that's because, I mean, this game does so many things that I specifically have been asking for, and us on the NetherKast podcast, a lot of us have been asking for years and years and years and years. Like I said, we've been doing this for a long time, and I've been a Mortal Kombat fan since the original, a diehard fan. So a lot of these things are something that I don't feel like we've gotten in a couple games now. MK11 was kind of a low note for a lot of people, and it's not that game didn't have a lot to love as well. It did. But where it was lacking, I felt like, was the gameplay and roster and, you know, music and stages. Like, I felt like the core things, the foundation, is where I felt like MK11 really struggled, whereas it got a lot of like the more superficial, fluffy, you know, like extra sizzle type stuff, but not the steak, you know. Whereas this game gets it right. The core of this game is so damn solid. I think this could be, it absolutely has the potential to be one of the best Mortal Kombat games of all time, if not the best, when it's all said and done and the dust settles, depending on how they choose to, you know, support it over the next 2 or 3 years. That could really solidify it. But even just now, I think it has an amazing start. So let's, first off, the gameplay. I mean, that is the most important part of your fighting game, is the gameplay itself. The gameplay has to be fun. And by all accounts, from everybody in our community that's played the game, I mean, it's just like addictingly fun. People don't want to put it down. My sleep schedule's all messed up because I just don't want to put it down. I want to keep playing the game. And that's where a lot of people are, you know, that's what a lot of people are feeling. I've seen so many times in our community from some of the more critical people that, you know, were really harsh on MK11 or had their issues with MKX. You know, MK9 was their last truly great Mortal Kombat game. Those are the same people that are like talking and praising this game's gameplay as being so fun and so amazingly just fun. And that's what I think this game has in spades, is just fun to play. And that is incredibly important. If it was to get one thing right, that is absolutely the thing it needed to get right, and it stuck that landing. That is a grand slam success. So that is the biggest success of this game, is the fact that the gameplay is fun. It is fun to play. You've seen other people talk about it, like Maximilian Dude. Like, he got soured out of Mortal Kombat 11 very quickly, but that's not a problem for this game because there's just so much like depth to what you can do. There's so much creativity. You can lab for hours and hours and hours learning a character and trying them with all the different cameos, and then you have all the other characters to attempt things with. So there's just so much fun to be had just playing the game. I have not had this much fun just playing a Mortal Kombat game since at least MKX, if not MK9. It's just packed with like so many things to try and do. So I'm just having a lot of fun with that. So yeah, that's my biggest praise of the game, is the gameplay. It gets that absolutely right and nails it. Next up would be the cameos. The whole cameo system of the game is phenomenal. This is something, this game's gimmick of cameos is far superior than the variation system from X and 11. I think it's such a good gimmick. I don't want to see it go away. I think this is something that should become a staple for Mortal Kombat, at least for like a trilogy. Like, let's see this out for a while until they feel like they need to reinvent it. But cameos absolutely is phenomenal. It's everything good about variations, but done so much better, because your characters, my complaints with variations in MK11 and MKX was the fact that you split up a character's moveset into 3 variations. So you may like this move and you may like this move, but you can't do them at the, at the same time. You know what I mean? I don't like that. And it also felt like it forced them to come up with moves for characters that didn't make as much sense or weren't as fitting, just to kind of like come up with 3 variations, which I would imagine is a difficult task. So I don't envy that. Whereas what I wanted to see them go back to is exactly this, where the character plays as the character. You always know what your opponent can do with that character at any given time. It's not a guessing game. It's not a big memorization game of all the different combinations of variations and so on and so forth. Instead, you know what a character can do. The character themselves feel like they're fairly easy. Well, some of them are more complex, but it feels like they're easier to pick up and understand what you're doing. It's the cameos that are the X factor that essentially add that variation factor to the X factor to your playable character. So that is amazing. It's a wonderful system, and not only is it like great for gameplay and diversity and variety, it's awesome just to see these characters, like to see classic versions of these characters in the game with classic skins for a lot of them, like Cyrax and Sector in their classic Mortal Kombat 3 look, or Sonya in her Mortal Kombat 1 or original Mortal Kombat, I should say, in Mortal Kombat 3 look, so on and so forth. That is so awesome. They look so genuinely authentic, like they nailed those appearances. Like Cyrax, my favorite character, has never looked better. And that much I'm appreciative of, because like the style of MK11 is designed in there, and MKX for the variation for Triborg and Mortal Kombat. I just feel like his design was getting less and less what I like or what I prefer about the character. And then his original design, and then Deadly Alliance was good too, but it kind of started straying away from that. To get their classic uniforms back are phenomenal. So I love that, and the cameos just feel like such a cool feature to the game. So yeah, I don't know that there's been a gimmick implemented into Mortal Kombat that I've been a bigger fan of. It's just fucking awesome. Like, I can't do it. I can't praise it enough. It's so awesome. Yeah, it's a genius idea. So kudos to them. And I'm somebody that really wanted tag team mode, and I hope we do get tag team mode added to this game, because I still think it could work. I still love the idea of tagging with a friend online and facing 2 other separate players online tagging together. I still want to see that, but cameos is a great like solo 1 versus 1 person where you get to be able to use 2 characters, essentially a character and a half, whatever you want to call it, and that character representation that it offers is awesome. Plus plus cameos offer the ability to use like characters that we likely would never have seen playable again, like a Darius, like coming completely out of left field, but also someone like Motaro, who they just, getting a character like that playable seems nearly impossible these days. So yeah, having him as a cameo is a great alternative. So yeah, it's just, once again, grand slam with cameos. I think they're executed so amazingly well. Huge success for the game. So gameplay, cameos, kind of married together in this game, which I love. I like the fact that you can't not use a cameo. You know what I mean? Like, if they would have made it its own little side mode, then you're segmenting the player base. And I know there was some controversy about that, dividedness on whether that should be the case, but I love the fact that the cameos are implemented, and I hope we don't look back. I think they're that strong of an addition to the game, and I think they won a lot of people over, because if you go back to my concerns video about Mortal Kombat 1, when they first announced it, and I said I have some concerns, and cameos are one of those things that I need to see more about them, but I had some concerns of how they're going to be implemented, and they just completely won me over, and they won so many other people over. Moving on, the roster. This roster could very easily be my favorite roster of any Mortal Kombat game ever. I feel that strongly about it. There's just so many amazing characters on this roster. I think the representation throughout the series is phenomenal. I've been a big proponent over the years, myself as well as my NetherKast co-hosts, fellow Mortal Kombat fans, diehard fans from so many years. We've been asking for 3D era characters to return, as well as some old fan favorites that we haven't seen since like Mortal Kombat 9, such as Smoke. And we're getting that. We got that with this game. We got Smoke. to come back. We also got like Reptile to come back since he missed 11, another great pick. But also characters from the 3D era, they chose like the cream of the crop to make playable. You have Reiko, you have Havoc, you have Ashra, Natara, Li Mei. It is so phenomenal. I cannot believe I'm still just like in a state of, it feels surreal being able to play these characters for the first time in 17 years since Armageddon. That is just insane. 17 years. That is a long ass time to wait to play a character again. And if you discount the fact that Armageddon was like an all-in game, you go even further. You're looking at 19 or over 20 years since these characters were playable. So it's just in like a standalone Mortal Kombat that wasn't an all-in Armageddon type. So that's just insane to me. I'm blown away to be able to main Ashra in a Mortal Kombat game in 2023. It's just phenomenal, and her design is so great. I love it. And same with Li Mei. They are knocking these characters out of the park, and I am so just in love with this roster. To see these characters again, I could go on and talk about it, but it's just phenomenal. So the roster, I think, is one of the best in Mortal Kombat history, if not the best. This is probably my personal favorite. Not counting like an all-in. I don't really count like Armageddon, because that's just taking every character from previous and making them playable with like reused assets and yada yada yada. So to me, that's not as special, and it's not as impressive as having your standalone roster where you have to be very selective. You only have so many slots that can go out to people, and I felt like this one, they used just about every single slot in a way that I think was a great pick. Like, I put together a dream roster scenario. Myself and the other guys on the podcast put together dream rosters of what each of us thought would be a perfect roster for Mortal Kombat 12 at the time, Mortal Kombat 1, and Temp and I both got like almost every single pick like on our dream roster. So that's just, that in itself is just amazing. And so far, I mean, that's like the most important thing to me in a fighting game is the gameplay and the roster, and those are huge successes. That's why I have so many great things to say about this game, and why I'm so like beyond over the moon excited about it and happy with it, satisfied with it. I'm just super, I love it. It's great. And then next up on the successes would be stages, and I'll just toss in music with it as well. Stages are the best in the series in a long time. If we put aside MK9, because MK9 was just remaking all the stages from like the past, if we set that aside, essentially, these are probably my favorite collection, like full collection of stages since either Deadly Alliance or even as far back as Mortal Kombat 2. Like, I love these stages. They have such great colors, great like vistas and atmospheres. You see in the background, you can see so much. They just feel like they're full of so much more life and detail than they ever have. I think that has to do with a lot with like invasions mode and how they use them for that, but also just the new, generation consoles being able to up the fidelity and the 4K and everything. They just look phenomenal. The stages, the design of them is phenomenal. The themes of them are great. You got a lot more Asian aesthetic themes on there. Your cherry blossoms, your pagodas, your temples. Seeing a lot of that return is phenomenal. Some of the classic stages are done really well, like the best they've been done since their original incarnations. I think like the Living Forest looks better than it ever has, at least since the the classic version, in my opinion. Even though the MK9 one was pretty good too. But yeah, the stages are just so damn good. Like, I just find myself wanting like to play nearly all of them, whereas with MK11, MKX, I would usually just pick like the same two or three over and over. Like, I played the Cove. Ask anybody that any of the other guys on the show, when we were on like King of the Hills or whatever, I just constantly pick the Cove and MKX. Whereas this time, like, I just love so many of them. So yeah, the stages, hats off to them. It's just they are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And there's so many, like, such good color diversity in the actual stages. Whereas you'll notice with like MK11 or MKX, you would constantly see like the same color dominate each stage. like in MK11, you would have one stage like this is the orange stage, this is the purple stage, this is the green stage. Whereas this, you have a lot of like varying colors that makes everything just stand out more and pop more and feel just that much more interesting to look at. They feel like paintings rather than just like a flat background. And then the music's kind of the same story. The music is really well done. I don't think it quite hits the same level as like classic Mortal Kombat, the original trilogy of tunes, plus Mortal Kombat 4, and even a splash of the 3D era. I don't know if it necessarily hits those highs of memorability, but it is leaps and bounds better than Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat X. Easily. It feels like it's moved away a little bit from the orchestral cinematic music and more into let's make actual themes for these stages. And I know they had in like they brought in more like composers from other video games, like from KI and Devil May Cry, like Casey Edwards, I think his name is. They brought in various composers to actually make stage themes this time, and I think that was a great choice, because these stage tracks are really good. Like, especially when you go into the lab, you go into practice mode and you just start spending like an hour in there, and you turn up the music and turn down everything else down by about 20-30%. That music's really good. It's easy to listen to. It gets you pumped up and excited, and that's absolutely what needs to happen. I'll throw in another one here, just the overall aesthetics of the game. Seeing like the main menu and the select screen just look a lot better. It's kind of in the same way that the stages look so much better and the music's better. It's just more enjoyable to load up this game and look at that main menu and select screen. They're full of more color. They got the Asian aesthetic going on. You got the trees and the leaves, and then like the statue in the background. The characters walking in from the sides of the screen to meet each other, and it automatically puts itself on the last character that you played, and the select screen is colorful. You don't just have the mugshot MKX approach where everybody's just staring right forward with a very neutral expression, like they're getting their picture taken for their driver's license or whatever. Like, it's just filled with more life. People are looking different ways and striking poses, and they have more color to them. Color really pops. Like, the art style of this game itself is a big success. A lot of people say, oh well, it's just it looks just like Mortal Kombat 11, or some even say it looks worse than Mortal Kombat 11. That's just insane. Until you've played this game on your TV or on your 4K monitor in front of you, you just don't know how good it actually looks. I don't think any trailer, any high-res, 4K, whatever, trailer, screenshot, or stream did it nearly as much justice as seeing it in front of you in person. Trust me. Absolutely trust me, because that is 100% the case. And I've been saying that since the stress test and the beta. It does not look nearly as good as when you're actually playing it on your own screen. I don't know why that is, but that's just the case. All right, and the last big success that I want to list off here is the quality of the cutscenes in story mode are really, really good. I mean, they've been getting better and better since they've started it. I think with Injustice 2 was their first like really high quality cutscenes that we started to see, along with the character models. And then Mortal Kombat 11 carried that same quality, and it just kept increasing. This, I think, takes it even further, and it's just phenomenal to watch the cutscenes in story mode. The fact that this is a fighting game, I think, gets lost on a lot of people about just how impressive this is, because typically fighting games don't even come near this quality of like cutscenes for a story mode, no less just like multiple hours of it. It's just insane. And on the same token, the arcade endings, the quality of those, like the comic booky, almost like design, painterly look to those also looks really good. So I think the arcade endings are very high quality, and I also appreciate that they're canon this time. They're not just, well, what if I defeated the boss of this game? Here's what I would do if I defeated them. It's not like what if scenarios. It actually is telling a story, following the main story of the game of what these characters are up to and the fallout from that and where they go next, that kind of stuff. Some of them even link together. So yeah, two major thumbs up on all of those things, the big successes. And then we get into the mixed bag stuff. So here's the things that I think are done okay, but could be done better. So, first thing, invasions. I like it more than I like Towers of Time in Mortal Kombat 11. It feels like it's a mixture of Towers of Time and the challenge tower from Mortal Kombat 9. So it's kind of like similar ideas, but like with a splash of conquest mode from back in the 3D era, especially even like the Deadly Alliance conquest mode where like the guy would walk from point to point and then you'd have a new mission to do. I think there's a lot of potential here and promise here. And the execution so far is solid, but I think it needs some tuning, and I think it needs more. I think it needs more variety, more like in the trailer you kind of see like how the character's jumping over like the survive minigame where you're jumping over like the incoming fireballs or projectiles or whatever, and you got to jump over some, you got to duck under some, you got to move left, right, etc. Like there needs to be more stuff like that, more variety. Think of like the challenge tower in Mortal Kombat 9 where you're shooting the oncoming zombies with your projectile, or you're throwing grenades into a bucket that's moving. Let's get more actual creative mini games like that, because right now it's kind of just like Towers of Time with that one survive mini game just mixed up on what's, you know, the speeds and what's coming at you, but it's just kind of mixed up with that, also with some test your might thrown in, which is also cool, don't get me wrong. But other than that, I mean, the missions are basically like Tower of Time, where everything has like modifiers, you have consumables and stats of your own that you're increasing as you level up and stuff like that. So I just want to see it improve to have more variety in the fights. Let's just eliminate entirely the things where the screen goes completely dark, or there's like smoke that you choke on every like 2 seconds, so it just breaks up your combos and makes that impossible, or the chaos, you know, thing where it just messes up all your controls and turns them backwards, or you don't know what button does what. Like that kind of stuff should go. That is not fun. That is just frustrating for a player, and it actually be quite irritating and annoying, and it can make you sick. It can just make it really hard to enjoy the experience to begin with. So that kind of stuff needs to just be completely removed, I think. It's okay to have like modifiers or, you know, silly things where arms are falling off, like what we saw in like the challenge towers and stuff like that. Like that kind of stuff. Let's look back at what Challenge Tower did and do more of that. Put more variety in there, put more mini games in there, different types of mini games. That's what my suggestion would be for Invasions, and then more interesting unlockables, which we'll get to because that's its own kind of topic here. But I think there needs to be more reward for going through Invasions, and more rewarding of your time, less of a grind. One thing of note right now that a lot of people have caught on to is the fact that there's no like, it doesn't seem like the XP that you gain from a fight is scaled based on the challenge of the fight or your level. Like it's better for you to get through Invasions and then just grind one of the easiest fights from the early part of Invasions over and over and over, so you're just doing it monotonously and people are already starting to complain and get bored with it or feel like it's a chore when they'd rather just be playing the game and getting XP for playing the game. Instead, they're just, because they want to level up their characters, because they want to unlock things, which is perfectly understandable. But yeah, we need to move away from that. Why are the harder fights not more rewarding for XP? If you beat a boss, it should give you a lot more XP than if you beat, you know, just a level 1 character, you know, fight. So keep that in mind. I think it should be far more rewarding for completing something more challenging, because then it at least keeps you engaged and feels like you're doing something new and different as you level up, instead of just grinding over and over the weakest, you know, thing, because that's just the fastest way to do it. So more variety, more XP reward, more reward with the unlockables. All of that would be my suggestions with Invasions. Beyond that, I mean, it would just be like little suggestions, like when you're full up on talismans, have a way to like quickly remove a bunch of them, because it's kind of annoying when you're full up on them and you continually have to spend the time to drop a talisman so that way you can, you know, gain the new one or whatever. Same with like the consumable, like you only have like 5 slots on the consumables, which just seems really unnecessary and strange. So either just allow people to just have unlimited amount of them and stack them up together, so they're taking up less slots, or have a way to quickly get rid of them, because that just is a time waste to manage that kind of stuff. But the thing that Invasions does do well, I think, is it's far more interesting to me to play through Invasions than it was Tower of Time. Seeing a Tower of Time and you're just on like, oh, I'm signing up for 10 fights. If I get bored 7 fights in, I can't just stop. I can't just pick this up later like you can with Invasions, because most of Invasion stuff is just one node, as they're called, at a time. So you can choose when you want to be done and walk away from it. Whereas a tower, if you're on a really challenging part 7 in, you could either lose and then you've just completely wasted your time, or you just get bored and you're like, I want to go do something else, but I've already invested this time. That's Invasion's way better for that reason, but it also is way better because it's just a more interesting thing to look at. It's more interesting to walk around these environments and see these like little Easter eggs and like Johnny's arcade and stuff like that. It's cool to walk around these environments and kind of feel like you have more of a self-control adventure mode type of thing. One other thing that comes to mind with Invasions, make a map. There needs to be a map, an easier way to navigate where you're going. People in the community, shout outs to Lord Autismo Austin in our community. He, his friend and him, they've been making maps or whatever for the Invasions, because yeah, you can get lost and that can be frustrating to get all twist and turned around and confused and disoriented. So make it easier to understand where things are and how to navigate through that. So maybe just like a press start or pull up a map button and you know you're here. And it's okay if you have a fog of war eventually, like if you want there to be a mystery to it to start, that's fine. But yeah, it should be just more like classic Mario, you know, with the overworlds and stuff. Like, there's no reason to not have a map to better understand where you're going. All right, next mixed bag thing. You know, it's kind of on the same thing, so I'll just lump it in right up next to Invasions, and that's XP. There needs to be better ways to manage XP and get it that doesn't resort to just grinding over and over the same thing over and over, like I just mentioned with Invasions, because that's what people are doing. People are always going to find the fastest way to do something and grind it out no matter what. So what I would recommend is one of the more important changes of these is you need to allow XP to be obtained through online private matches. When I run a set with a friend, we should be getting XP for every single fight. And if you don't have that because you don't want people to like boost or grind it or, you know, quickly get XP just by having somebody leave their controller or something silly, one, who cares how people choose to use their, AI battles and stuff were in the last game. So if somebody just wants to leave their controller sitting there while their friend beats them up over and over to level up faster, whatever. You can implement things like if you didn't move at all, you don't get XP or whatever. You can do it however you want, but you should absolutely be getting XP and in a good amount, so that way playing online against friends should always be a competitive or a comparable option to single player modes in regards to getting XP. That's just straight up, that needs to be the case. Be it King of the Hill, be it private matches, whatever the case, XP needs to be able to be gotten just by playing sets with your friends, or King of the Hill with your friends. You should not have to choose between leveling up your character, unlocking things and doing the mastery stuff, or playing with your friends. That is never a good option. So that needs to be implemented very soon, in my opinion. And the next thing would be online options. So that's another mixed bag thing where it's like, this time we just got King of the Hill, we just got private matches. No longer do we even have the ability to create our own rooms online, to like create like a lobby and let it fill with like 100 people. It'd be nice to be able to have, like online groups, so we can have a NetherKast group with our community where we can easily invite people, like Street Fighter has with their clubs, I think, and Street Fighter 6, whatever it's called. where like we create our own NetherKast crew or group or whatever you want to call it, and invite everybody so that everybody in our community can easily play together without necessarily having to go through the trouble of adding each other as friends through us keeping like a master list ourselves on our, that kind of stuff. There just needs to be more options for better online, excuse me, a better online experience. Just more options, more of everything. Put in some team battle stuff like from Mortal Kombat X, where you can have 5-on-5, where you can do it like round robin, where each member of each team faces each other, and then whoever got the most wins, whichever team got the most wins between all of those battles, is the ultimate victor, and they get a big XP reward, stuff like that, or 3-on-3, etc., etc. That needs to all like add more online ways to play together. So that would be that. I definitely, and just smooth out connections with online. There's been some people that have felt like the online has not been nearly as smooth as it was with MK11 or just like other competitive other options in the fighting game realm like Street Fighter 6. So fix the netcode a little bit. I mean, it's not bad, trust me. I haven't really experienced any issues myself, but if others are, then that's something they should look into. And then the next thing I would say is unlockables and skins kind of are combined into the same group here. The skins in this game are themselves a mixed bag. There are some cool ones, like Ashra's second one I really like. Li Mei looks good. Shang Tsung looks great. There are definitely some great designs in here. Reiko. But then there's others that just feel like they're kind of plain Jane, or they feel like they're way overly complex with what they're trying to do and just like look like foreign. They look really weird. They look like they're out of Injustice, or they look just like a mishmash of so many various parts and things. It doesn't feel like they flow or go together. Think about in story mode, certain scenes, like I said, I won't spoil it, but it feels like a lot of that, where it just feels like so many things just mashed together that don't really make sense and don't make for great designs. And that is unfortunate, because I feel like in the history of Mortal Kombat, going back to like Deadly Alliance and Deception, MK9, even MKX, like you had some great alternative attires. Alt attires were always really awesome in Mortal Kombat, like when they've been there. So it feels like this time it feels like things were a little bit rushed and less inspired. So I would really like to see more diverse skins. Give us classic outfits. Give us like Shredder Sub-Zero again, Deadly Alliance Scorpion, for Cyrax as a cameo, give me Deadly Alliance Cyrax would be awesome. That kind of stuff. And the cameos themselves, only one of them currently has an alternate attire, and that's Sonya, her MK3 one. So more attires for the cameos, more attires for the main cast. And I want better skins that look more like Mortal Kombat. They look like they have a theme to them, like they're trying to tell a story. Classic skins. So more of that kind of stuff. Less kind of just feeling like there's so many random things thrown together. Less busy kind of stuff like that. And that also kind of goes into the unlockables. It feels like right now the unlockables are lacking in the game. Like people have already unlocked everything there is in the game, which is fine, because it is worth noting that the game is going to receive new content with a new season every 6 weeks. I think there's like 40 days remaining so far left on this first season, which feels like a long time, but that'll go by fairly quickly. But I definitely think the unlockables need to be more worth it and to be more diverse and unique. It feels like there was you're just earning a lot of like palettes of the same kind of, like the theme of this season was the Scorpion theme. So everything was like yellow and orange and red, various versions of that color, yellow, orange, red, black together, ways to mix that up. And it's like, it just felt kind of samey. It felt there were so many like small, tiny variations of the same palettes and color schemes for things. Same with the gear. Even though there's less gear, there's a lot less here than there was in MK11 of all that kind of extra fluff and extras type stuff in general. But yeah, like, I think the unlockables they just need a better direction, a better focus, and make them feel worth obtaining. And yeah, and then it's also worth noting, like, it's more on like the negative side of the unlockables. I don't love the fact that there's like 5 cameos that you have to unlock by playing the game, which is fine. But then now they're also allowing you to just buy those cameos to just unlock them without doing any of the, leveling up your profile. You can buy them for like $20. Which is not the best practice, because that really screws over tournament owners, or organizers, I should say. So if you're organizing a tournament and you have to have, 20 setups or whatever it's going to be, that's 20 copies of the game you now have to buy those cameos for, because you can't just sit down in 5 minutes and unlock those. That's going to take, it takes you probably like 4 or 5 hours, let's say, to unlock all of those cameos individually. Well, not individually, but in totality. Plus you got to unlock Havoc, so that on top of it, and he's $8 in the store. And to their credit, they do say you can earn these in the game. They're not trying to trick people, but just in general, it feels less like those are additional content. It doesn't feel like they're DLC that they're charging you for, which is fair game at that point. It feels like it's content that was already built for the game that they are now pulling away from the game just to make unlockable, just so that they can also put it in the store and catch people to spend more money on the game, which is unfortunate, because this is a full price title. This is a $70 game. This is not free to play. It was not a half off game or anything like that. It was not a $20 game. This was a full $70 game, a modern gen, next gen, whatever you want to call it at this point, title. So this was no cheap game. So yeah, it just to do something like that, I just don't think is right. So I definitely would like to see less of that and more about, let's reward people that play our game and reward them for the money they've already spent on it. Now, getting into a similar subject is the Dragon Crystals store situation that we currently see. So Dragon Crystals, just so you're aware, are they're the payable currency in the game. You can earn them, but you sparingly earn them. I think through leveling up my profile, I earned maybe like 500. Leveling up my profile, somewhere around there. Estimate could be off by 100 or so. So 100 Dragon Crystals is $1. So I earned, by leveling up my profile all the way to the max, which is 100, which took me roughly 75 hours of play to do that, we'll say. Granted, all of that wasn't like grinding or anything, but in totality, we're around 70 hours of play to max out my profile level. That got me around 500 crystals total, we'll say. So $5 worth of in-game currency to then spend on store items that you have to buy with the Dragon Crystals. There are exclusive things that you can only get with just the Dragon Crystals. There are also things in the store that you can get either by unlocking or with Dragon Crystals to get them quicker. I've noticed that there are bundles, like currently with the Sindel bundle, that you get you can earn almost everything in the bundle. And to their credit, a positive is as you earn things in that bundle, it does lessen the price of that bundle. Like, it started off at like 600 credits or something, 600 Dragon Crystals, and it's down to 60, because I think the only gear piece you can't unlock in that bundle is only 60 Dragon Crystals. Whereas on the flip side, you have like the Day of the Dead Sub-Zero, which is like, I don't know, like 600 or 800 Dragon Crystals. So that's $6 or $8 just for that skin, or 500, whatever it is, somewhere around there. Or you can get the Tanya bundle, where it's an exclusive skin for her with various, comes with various color schemes, and then one gear item. That is $8 worth of dragon crystals, and those you cannot earn. Those items you cannot unlock in the game. So yeah, and this is where it gets a little like rough, because then sorry, to follow up earlier on how you can earn dragon crystals, it's from leveling up your profile, which like I said, you can max out around like 500 dragon crystals, but you also get some from leveling up the main roster characters, not the cameos, but the main roster characters. You do get, I think, a total of 200 through their mastery. They're up to 35 levels, I think at like level 20, and it's like, yeah, level 20 or 21 you get 100, so $1, and then you get one at like 30 or something like that, somewhere around those levels you get. So they're higher levels, so it takes a bit to get to those for that character, and you can do that 23 characters. So roughly you could earn, you know, a few more dollars by doing it that way too. Essentially, I mean, if you do the math, you could 2 times 23, you can get another $46 of dragon crystals through that method as well. Problem here is, once again, you have to remember this is a full price title. This is not free to play. This is not Fortnite. So dragon crystals, either the stuff in the shop that costs dragon crystals should be lowered in cost, so it's more reasonable for a full price title. Like, let's say for the Tanya bundle, it's $2 instead of $8. That would be much more reasonable in my opinion. It would also make the ones that you earn in the game go a lot further throughout the course of the game. Because at the end of the day, I do think you should be hoping your players spend their time on your game or spend the money on the game. Like, if they don't want to put in the time to unlock things, and they don't want to put in the time to earn dragon crystals and stuff like that, it's fine to put in a fast pass way to do it. Like, you know, that's perfectly fine. Pay or play, basically. But you also have to remember, everyone's paid to get in to begin with. So it's kind of like going into an amusement park. How it doesn't make anybody feel good when you go and you pay to get into an amusement park, and then there's other things that, like other rides that cost additional money to do. So anyways, so my thought is that things in the store should be dropped in the amount of dragon crystals that they cost, or there needs to be more dragon crystals that go around. Like, I think you should earn a certain amount of dragon crystals at a higher rate or at a higher percentage, so that way if you are a frequent player of the game, you should never have to put another dollar into the store items anyways. Because keep in mind, there's also the DLC, like the actual combat pack, where you're paying for the characters and all the other stuff that they're going to be putting out, like combat packs and with characters and cameos and stuff like that. The combat pack itself is like $40, which is fine. I'm not arguing that. Adding that all stuff takes a lot of resources and time. I get that, so definitely not arguing against that. I'm also not arguing about like the idea of putting things in the store, like extra skins and stuff, which is what, you know, they're asking for dragon crystals for. But I definitely think either the dragon crystal percentage that you get them and the rate at which you can get them needs to go up, or the cost of things needs to come down. Either way, it needs to be about a 50%, you know, in whichever direction. So either 50% more dragon crystal, being able to gain them and have an actual method, a proven method to be able to gain them. Just character masteries is one thing, but like what happens when that's done? Like, it's currently, there's no other way that I'm aware of to get dragon crystals outside of the character masteries and your profile level. So hopefully they put in like daily quests and weekly quests like they currently have for like coins in the game. Hopefully they eventually start offering dragon crystals through those daily and weekly quests, even if it's only like 100, 200 at a time. So one of those things needs to happen, I think, because right now, since it is a full price title, I think it's just a hair past egregious, in my opinion, the way it is. And finally, of the mixed bag stuff, it's just like the UI, like the quality of life stuff. The like practice mode and training options can be difficult to use. They don't feel as high quality as MK11 was in regards to like recording things and setting your options and having it save and all that kind of stuff. It just feels like they weren't quite a lot of things like the superficial stuff, or like like I said, outside of the core foundation of the game, a lot of the extra stuff feels like it just wasn't ready yet. Like the unlockables, the skins, the UI, the stuff like bugs and stuff, the XP. It just feels a bit half-baked, and I have full confidence that this stuff will get addressed in time in the next, oncoming weeks and months. So I have full confidence that a lot of this will be improved like it typically is, but it's still worth mentioning. Other stuff with like the UI, things like the moves list could be easier to look at and find what you're looking for and understand what it's telling you. Just easier to navigate, have maybe a dark mode, so that way, right now it's super bright, so just have something that's a bit more user friendly and just have more options. It never hurts to have options. Have a dark mode, have a how you want to organize the moves list, stuff like that. Be able to tag combos and stuff, like to have them stay on screen like they've had previously. So yeah, that would be my recommendations there, but it's worth noting. Otherwise, yeah, that's Mortal Kombat 1. It is a phenomenal game overall. Like I said, when you take all of this into account, I think it does so many more things right than it gets wrong. And I think the things that are wrong that we've covered will hopefully be fixed in time, especially like the more key things like the PC port and bugs, etc., crossplay. But I do think like some of the smaller stuff and just like the mixed bag stuff, I do think that will all be improved. I think this is just probably an example of a game that was made primarily during COVID times that wasn't quite ready. Like the core of it's ready, which is the most important part to get right out of the gates. That's why I'm so happy, and that's what I focus on. And I'm just completely blown away by the way this game plays and looks and feels. But there are a lot of those little things that still need kind of tweaked and, before it becomes, in my eyes, like perfect, you know what I mean? So I can't give it a 10 out of 10 score. I do highly recommend this game. If I were to put like a number rating on it, I think we're looking at like a 9 out of 10, 8.5, 9, somewhere around there, of an overall package. And then I think once they get a lot of these things, improved upon, like the mixed bag stuff, and if they get the failures taken care of and redeemed there, this is easily like a 9.5 or 10, once the dust settles. I think it has complete potential to do so, and I think it's a phenomenal game and will go down as one of the best Mortal Kombats of all time. Like, I think if everything keeps going the way it should, and like things get addressed and it gets supported the way it should, this could easily stand up with Mortal Kombat 2, UMK3, Deception, MK9. It's going to be like a top 5 all-time Mortal Kombat game, if not top 3. It's phenomenal. Once again, thank you to WB for providing me with this copy. Hopefully you all enjoyed this review of Mortal Kombat 1. Once again, I do recommend the game. Check it out. It's a shit ton of fun. Like I said, more than anything, it's just a shit ton of fun. I want to play more of it, and yeah. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you all very soon. I definitely want to know what you all feel about it in the comments below. Let me know what your experience has been with Mortal Kombat 1. I'm dying to know what everybody else is feeling. I keep an eye on what everybody else in our community on Discord says. Some of the stuff that I put in here is directly some of the things that I've seen other people talking about, just gauging how the community's feeling. So yeah, let me know how you feel in the comments below. And yeah, you got to get your voice out there. I tell everybody, if you have complaints or things that you feel good or feel bad about, anything, amazing, bad, whatever it is, express yourself in the comments, express yourself on Twitter, at the devs. Let them know respectfully and tactfully what you love about the game, so they know how to what's working and to keep doing it, as well as what you want to see improved about the game, so they know what needs to be done. I think that's so important. So let me know in the comments below what you think of Mortal Kombat 1, and I'll see you out there. Take care, everybody.